So welcome everyone. Hope you're all having a good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be. And welcome to the studio webinar. We're really excited to do this and kind of dive into some of the functionality of this tool and show you all of its awesome capabilities. So my name is Wes Patterson. I'm an implementation specialist here at BioDigital. With me today are my colleagues, Sean Kelly, who's another implementation specialist, and Rachel Moak, who's our director of customer success. So I'll be kind of doing the main presenting today, and they're going to help answer your questions and monitor the chat as we're going here as well. So we're going to talk about what's new in Studio. I'm going to kind of talk about why we're here, what we're doing today, how you can ask questions, all that kind of housekeeping stuff up front, and then we'll kind of get into a live demo. But first, I'm just curious kind of what everyone's familiarity level is with Human Studio. So I'm going to actually just launch a quick poll question if you all don't mind answering that. We're really curious to kind of hear what your familiarity is. So let me go ahead and do that. Let me know if you don't see that for some reason. Oh, great. Yeah, people are answering it. Awesome. Okay. So as people are answering there, I'll kind of keep going. So Human Studio is our kind of the content authoring part of our web platform. You know, it's kind of like a Photoshop Lite. It's what allows you to take our 3D models, our 3D content, and kind of cater those to your own learning objectives and create your own kind of custom learning experiences where you can edit the 3D content, you can bring in your own learning materials and kind of create these really unique, tailored, catered learning experiences. So that's what we're talking about today. And one of the reasons we're here today is because we updated this platform, this Human Studio part of our platform, about a month ago. And it was a big update. We changed a lot of the interface. We made things, hopefully more intuitive and familiar, and made a number of improvements that should make this easier to use, faster to use. And so we're excited to show you a lot of those improvements today. I'm going to go ahead and end this poll too. Looks like almost everyone answered. So let's see what we're going here. I'm just going to kind of share so everyone can see this. Okay, awesome. Yeah. All over the map, which is great. Like, that's why we're here. If you're newer to this, you're in the right place. We're going to kind of walk through the steps of how to create something from scratch, step by step. So as a new user to Human Studio, you should be able to walk away, able to hit the ground running, knowing what you need to do to create your own kind of learning experiences. For more advanced users, we're going to make sure we cover all the changes that have happened so that you're familiar with the tools that you're used to, and you also can see some of the new functionality and hit the ground running there as well. Our new kind of Human Studio is true. What you see is what you get authoring experience. So it's going to mimic that end user experience a lot better and eliminate some of the guesswork between the authoring of the content and the actual publishing of the content, you sharing it with your end users. You're going to see a number of improvements that are hopefully time saving for you, better workflows, quicker actions, and so forth. So we're excited to kind of dive into some of this. All right, so we just talked a little bit about the goals for today. We'll kind of give you first like an overview of what's going on here, which we're doing right now. And then I'm going to share a couple examples with you all of kind of what's possible in Studio, what you can create, get you all thinking about what you can do. And then we'll use that to show some of what's new in the platform. And then most of this will actually be just a live demo, which you can follow along with me as I'm doing it. And we'll show how to actually create some of those examples that we discussed. And then finally, at the end, we'll have a dedicated Q&A session about the last 10 minutes of the webinar. But we also encourage you to ask questions as I'm going through everything. There's a couple ways you can do that. The main way, I think, would be just the Q&A feature that's at the bottom of your webinar kind of tools there on Zoom. You can just basically type a question in there. You can put it anonymously if you want to. That's totally fine. I'm sure if you have a question, someone else has a similar question. So please don't be shy in questions. There is also a chat that's just going to go directly to myself and my fellow panelists here. If you're having like any technical issues or a question you want to ask us, feel free to throw it in the chat there as well. And Rachel and Sean will be monitoring that and kind of answering questions as we go. Finally, this is being recorded and this will be shared with you as well. So if you need to hop early for some reason, you have another meeting, whatever, no worries. Feel free to do that. This is going to be recorded. We'll post it on our help center, and you'll also get an email from us in a couple of days following up with the recording. All right, I think I covered everything. I'm just going to take a quick sip to hydrate, and then we're off to the races. All right, so let's get into some examples. What can you do with Human Studio? So here's an example of a lesson that's been created using a couple of our models. One, you'll see the heart model here, and you'll see a number of changes have been made to it that we'll kind of walk you through. And this is basically what we call a tour. This is a series of 3D views, 2 views that have been strung together, this view of the heart and this blood flow through the heart, strung together into this kind of cohesive learning experience. And we'll kind of talk about how to create something like this. What you're looking at is how your end user or your learner would experience this content if this was, published somewhere, if this was embedded in one of your courses or your learning materials or shared with them. This is kind of how they would experience the content. And I want you to see what this looks like first, and then you'll kind of see why in a second. So we basically gone in here. We've added some interactive labels to the scene here on the heart, highlight some of these structures, and you can see we've set kind of a custom zoom point with the camera where we want to zoom so the user can be taken to the exact view that we want them to see. We've colored those labels a little bit to color code just kind of the flow of blood and how that works with the deoxygenated blood through the heart and the oxygenated blood being in the red. And you see we've kind of added our own custom text here on the left. So we've added some of our text that we want users to see. We've actually added a little GIF of circulation showing the flow of blood through the cardiovascular system in the body. And we've added, using our positions feature, some preset views that users can click into to be able to see some great views of all the chambers of the heart, in addition to, of course, having that full interactivity still to be able to interact with the model freely as they please. A couple other things I'll highlight, some more positions, and then we actually have some audio. I think you should be able to hear this, the heartbeat in action here, the beating heart. So you can kind of upload your own audio files here. And you can even link out to other content, maybe other lessons you have. You can hyperlink anything in the text here as well. And we kind of have our labels legend here too. So it gives you a sense of all the kind of customizations you can make and kind of all the things you can add in here. I want to show you one more example, and we'll actually kind of dive into how to create some of this stuff. This is an example of a procedure tool. We got the transesophageal echocardiogram. Wow, actually, I'm surprised I nailed that pronunciation. And then this basically has a few chapters, right? It's kind of a step-by-step procedure that walks you through this type of ultrasound that takes pictures of the heart. And so as a user, I'm kind of being walked through this. You can see you can actually add in real imagery as images like this into the learning experience, which can be really helpful for procedures like this. You'll see again the positions feature that allows you to have these kind of preset views to really see how these valves are working in action as you go through the steps of the procedure. Here you can see like an ultrasound image that's been added in to reflect, what you see in the 3D scene here with the procedure as well. So that's some of what's possible, and let's talk about how to recreate some of that stuff in Studio ourselves. Actually, before I get into that, I want to open this up in Studio. So I'm going to open up this heart example here. And you can see immediately that like this looks a lot like what we were just looking at, is that published kind of end user experience, and that's by design, right? You can see on my left, my chapters here, these two 3D scenes are exactly the same as how they appear to my end users. Same thing with all this content panel. I went in here and created this, and this has all of the information you need, and that's going to be presented exactly how your end users will see it. So it kind of eliminates some of that guesswork that you had to do before to see how it would actually look to your users. You still have this tool in the top right, which is that preview button to see how it looks is a published tool. So you can still go to preview mode, but hopefully you should have to do that left now, because this really is that true, what you see is what you get authoring experience, and it more closely mimics that end user experience. You'll also notice, this anatomy tree where you can search for structure as an end user. This looks really similar to the authoring experience, and we'll talk more about that as well. If I'm going to add any quiz questions, which we'll also talk about today, these are going to appear on the left-hand panel, which is where they would actually appear to end users as well. So same place as in the authoring tool. You can see I now have all my kind of tools on the right. So we have some streamlined access to tools. Previously, these were just kind of icons and they weren't labeled. And now I can click in and open these tools. They're a little bit more clearly labeled. I can also open tools, multiple tools at once, to be working in multiple things at once, which should make your workflows a little faster. So all your kind of old familiar tools like paint, labels, changing the background color, downloading an image, those are all here on the right-hand side for your convenience. One of the really cool things about Studio now is that we have a modular workspace, just meaning that, a lot of these tools and elements can be moved around, shown, collapsed, adjusted to your kind of preferences as an author. So for example, if I'm kind of working over here in my scene and I just don't need this panel right now, I can collapse that and I can easily just bring that back when I need to. Same thing with the tools on the right. I can double click to collapse that or bring that back. And then I have my toggle columns button here by the preview, which is really helpful because I can just go and see the full kind of 3D canvas, get a better sense of what that'll actually look like just by removing the tools out of my way like that. So it gives you a lot more flexibility as an author. So those are some of the kind of broad interface UI design changes that we've made to make this a little bit more intuitive. Okay, so how would we actually create something like this? I'm going to walk through that now, and I'd encourage you to follow along with me as well if you're in your account. So what I'm going to do is I'm just in human.biodigital.com. I'm in the kind of BioDigital team account here, but you can be in your own team account. And I'm just going to go to the explore section. And the first thing I'm kind of asking myself is, okay, like how do I get the content that I need to create the lesson that I want? So I'm going to first find that heart model. So I'm just going to search for the heart model. And I'm see it's the first one that pops up there. And I'm going to click the three dots and I'm just going to customize this in Studio. And that's going to open it in that Human Studio part of our platform. And you can see it has some text that comes with it. We're going to be able to edit that and remove that later. So we'll kind of walk through that process. But if you remember, there's still another scene we want. We want to get that blood flow through the heart model in here as well. And the way we do that is just with this plus button over here that allows you to import another chapter. You see I have two options. One is to duplicate this. So if maybe I want to show like the chambers of the heart first, and then I'm going to have another view of the heart that just shows like the valves or something like that, I can duplicate that if I wanted to and have two unique 3D scenes that I could edit and customize to my liking. So just so you know that you can do that. In this case, I want to import like a new model. So I'm actually just going to import a chapter. By default, it's going to take me to the BioDigital library, which is kind of all of our off-the-shelf 3D models. All of our gross anatomy content here and all of our specialties content is available. You can see there's almost 1,400 models to choose from. You can also import something from my library, which is your kind of saved team collection of models as well. So I'm going to stay in the BioDigital library and I'm going to just search blood flow. And that model is going to come up and I'm just going to click into that model. You can see it's going to add that second 3D scene in there. So now I have my two unique chapters that I can edit. So in Studio, we're typically just editing kind of like one chapter at a time. So if I start with my heart chapter, I can go in and start to make some more 3D changes here. Now, many of you may not need to change any of the 3D content in the scene, but some of you will, and I want you to all understand kind of like what's possible in here. If we wanted to cater this kind of 3D view and show different anatomical structures, maybe show a different view of the heart, maybe show some structures that are more deeply hidden, we can do all those changes in Studio. So that's one of the first changes I recommend doing if you need to do that. So let's say for the sake of example, we want to show and kind of highlight for our learners like the valves of the heart, which are kind of hidden in there. We can go to our anatomy tree here. In our anatomy tree, it's basically just going to give you a list of all the 3D structures that are present in the model. By default, it's going to be like this tree view. You can see when I select the cardiovascular system, it's going to select all those structures on the model like that. And you can see I can kind of open up the tree to get to what I want. I could highlight like the chambers of the heart, for example, and it highlights it on the model. Same thing if I click onto a structure on the model, it'll highlight that in the anatomy tree as well. So these two things are interconnected, and these are the tools you're going to use to kind of edit things. If you just need to kind of hide one-off structures, I can right-click on any structure on the model, and I have a number of tools available to me, like show or hide. So I can hide like the cardiac fat to be able to see the right ventricle, for example. And so forth. So I can kind of do one-off actions easily on the model. I can apply like a fade effect, which is sort of a glass view where you can kind of see through it, but you can see the relationship still between structures. However, if you're getting to structures that are deeper that you can't click into immediately on the model, the anatomy tree is really useful. So I have my tree view like this. I also now have a list view, which is a new improvement. And the list view is just going to give you a list of all the structures present, and this is going to make it easier to search for structures as well. And you can filter that between like just individual structures only, like this, or you can filter it to groups of structures, like chambers of the heart, for example, vessels, and so forth. So that's some new functionality to make this a little easier to use. In the list view, I can actually just search for like the valves, for example, and I can see the valve of the heart come up like that. I'm going to search singular. Perfect. So I have all my valves like that. Let's say I want to show those. A great way to do this, I think, I have my 6 structures selected here. I'm going to click on that menu. And I'm actually going to go onto this fade effect, and I'm going to fade everything else. You can see now I have my valves being shown, and the rest of the heart is still kind of present, so they can see where in the heart those valves lie, but it's got that fade effect applied to it. So that just allows users to see immediately a new 3D view, and you can kind of customize views to your liking like this. The other thing I'll say about the anatomy tree that is really helpful now is you can actually pop this out in a floating window now. And so now I can kind of move this wherever I want in my workspace. And let's say like I need to go back to my content, for example, to edit the text. Well, I still have my anatomy tree right here, and I can go and click on things and do the edits that I need to as well. So the anatomy tree is really just a huge time saver. It's a great way to take bulk actions, kind of like I just did, to quickly get to the 3D views that you want to do. Now, let's say we have the valves of the heart, which is great, but maybe I want to draw users' attention to those even more and kind of distinguish each valve from one another, since they do look kind of similar if I'm unfamiliar with these anatomical structures. A great way to do that would be using our paint tool. So I'm going to open up this paint tool in the right-hand menu. Paint just allows you to add basically color to any structure. And previously, the way our paint function worked is it would overlay this color, the color that you choose, over the color of the structure. So this kind of white tan structure of the valves of the heart. We recently updated that so that paint now desaturates the original color of the structure and kind of removes that color and then applies the new color. And the result of that is just a more consistent color. And you'll see as I use some of these new preset colors to add these to the model that it appears more how you would expect it to, instead of kind of blending the colors together. So for my valves, I'm actually just going to select the valves of the heart here, and select those structures. And then I'm going to go over to my paint colors. And you can see I can just use one of these preset colors, and it's going to color those like that. You can see I colored all of them, and I may want to actually distinguish those more individually by coloring the individual ones. So I'm going to just use this undo button, which are really handy, by the way, just to be able to quickly undo and redo any of your actions here. And I'm actually going to clear my selection. Now I'm going to go to my list view. And okay, search valve, heart. Okay, and I'm actually just going to search like mitral. Should be coming up. I'm actually going to filter to structures only. So you can see I actually had it on groups of structures only. So I was searching for an individual structure, and it wasn't coming up because I had it on groups only. So that's a good tip too that I'm still learning as well. That make sure you have it on all or structures only if you're searching. And I'm actually going to go back and just search my valve there. And you can see I have my different options. So I'm going to click like the aortic valve. Let's use a preset color, and it's going to automatically paint that structure. I'll click on my mitral valve and click into another preset color. You'll notice now, instead of having to like apply the paint, it just applies it automatically once I have a structure selected and I click into the paint, which is really handy. I can also apply my own custom colors. So if I go up to my current color selection here, I can go in and select, any color I want to, like this. I can even input a hex code if I have like a certain color in mind or a branded color that I want to use on the model. So I can do that. And then you can see, you can go through, and now I can kind of have these structures pop a little bit more and distinguish from one another like that using the paint tool. In addition to our preset colors under this BioDigital palette, you also have some preset effects. We talked about like the glass or the fade effect, that allows you to give that fade structures like that. We also have desaturate, which kind of removes that original color, removes the intensity of the color. We have a grayscale, and we have the original color if you need to apply that as well. So you have various options there. If you find a color you really like, for example, I'm just going to go to colors used in this chapter, which is really handy. I like this like purple color that I found. I can actually add that color to a palette. And what this will do, I'm just going to name this a test palette. And then we will just save this color. So now whenever I come back into Human Studio to edit anything, I'll have my custom palettes available, and then I could just use those colors that I want. So if there's colors you regularly use, or you want to have like color theme consistency across models, across kind of learning experiences you're creating, the palettes are a great way to do that, to have all those colors handy for you right there. So that's kind of the first step in terms of customizing things. Is just figuring out, okay, I need to add my chapters, get my 3D content that I need, and then I can make any edits to the 3D content or overlay any kind of visual effects using paint effects. I'm going to go ahead and reset this view back to my original view here. So we don't actually need to do this for the sake of recreating some of this content. And then we can talk about how to actually edit the content like we saw before in the information panel here. I'm going to go ahead and save this, and this is a good tip just to save early and often as you're going through Studio. You don't want to accidentally X out of this tab and then lose your work. So I'm going to go ahead and just save this model here, and I'll save this as test. Perfect. Okay. So in terms of editing content, you can see it comes with its own kind of pre-populated text. What I'm going to do, since I don't actually need that, I kind of already know the text that I want to add in here, is I'm going to go to the little dots by the text here, and I'm just going to delete this block. This is our new content blocks feature, which just allows you to add text, media, lots of different things that we'll go through and order them as you please, and to kind of display this the way you want to your end users. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that so I just have a fresh canvas to work with here. And then I'm going to pull over the other model so I can see what I need to put in here. And the way I'd add content is just this add new block feature right here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new block, and I'm going to add a text block. And I'm going to type in my overview. And I'm actually going to highlight that and use one of our headers for the rich text options. And then do some regular text. That's okay. Perfect. Okay, so I got my kind of first text block in there. And then you'll notice I had like kind of a looping video, the GIF that I added in there. And if I go to the add new block, I have a little GIF feature here. And what this allows you to do is basically create your own GIF by uploading a short video file and kind of turning it into a looping video, or uploading your own kind of WebP file that's already a looping video. And so if I do that here, I'm going to go ahead and upload my little video file that I have ready. And this can take a couple of minutes to process. I'm going to go ahead and just add a little caption for my users that lets them know this is showing circulation through the cardiovascular system here. And then I'm going to hit done, kind of let that process. Sorry. We had some more text in there, so I'm going to add that, and then I'm going to show you kind of how flexible these features can be and how you can really arrange things to your liking. So next we had a little text about the chambers of the heart, so I'm going to add that. I'm going to do our heart chambers. And then you can see how my block's like this. Now, the great thing about this feature is that you can reorder everything. Previously, you could add in, images, video, audio, GIFs, all this stuff, but you weren't able to reorder it. It just kind of appeared in a predefined order. Whereas now I can just drag and drop any of these kind of blocks that I've created and order anything the way I want to, which is really awesome. So if I want this GIF to appear first, I can do that and have that at the top for users. So you can see how easy it is to kind of reorder things as I'm going. You can also insert a new block in between content if you want it to just already appear in the place that you expect it to right there as well. So we haven't talked about adding text. I added a GIF. You can also upload images like that. So I just uploaded an image file, same process there. I can upload video, any of my own videos that I want in here. And then I can also upload an audio file, like a recorded audio that I have, and have that in there, kind of like we did with the heartbeat earlier, where I had that heartbeat audio uploaded. The positions feature is really handy, so I want to talk about that a little bit now. And this is one of our new content block options. We had it before, but it kind of lives here now. Adding a position is just basically a way to add a preset 3D view to the model that you want users to be able to click in and engage with. And so let's say I want to kind of show some different positions of chambers of the heart. Well, I can kind of zoom around here to my right atrium, kind of get the view I want, and then I'm going to go ahead and add that position. And I'm going to say, this is like the right atrium. And then I'm actually going to go ahead and add another position to this. And my new position will kind of show the left atrium over here. And I'm going to go ahead and hit capture to capture that second position. We're going to call that the left atrium. And we'll hit done. You can see now I have a couple of preset positions like that users can click into on the left-hand side to see those chambers of the heart. You can add, as many positions as you want just in one block like that. You can also add a new block of positions if you want to be able to have like some positions of the chambers of the heart. Maybe I want to have different positions, and then I could make a new block of positions and kind of move that wherever I want to as well. So that's the new content blocks feature that can be really helpful in authoring kind of custom content for your users. You'll notice in the other model, we also had some labels on here. And so I'll kind of walk you through that process. We have a label tool here on the left where I can go in and start basically clicking on any structure and labeling it just like that. And so I can label my chambers of the heart like this. And then you can see I actually have the cardiac fat blocking the ventricles right now. So I can go to my hide tool. I can just remove that fat. So I can add the labels in here as well. I have my labels. The labels are super customizable. You'll notice I can click into any label to open that label. And this pops up now, which is a new feature into a block, just like the anatomy tree where it's flexible. I can move it wherever I want in my authoring experience. I can also just click into a label in the labels tool on the right-hand side here. So the label, you can change the title of it if you want to change the title. And just like our new content blocks feature, you can also use that feature in the descriptive text of the label. So I could add in more text if I wanted to in my label, which is handy. So I could add that in there and you'll see that appear. I have all my rich text options like that. I can also upload my own images, video, or GIFs into the label for users to be able to click into and see as well, which can be really helpful. You can customize the style of labels. One of the new features here is this kind of preset angle, which allows you to set the angle of the label. So for example, if I want to kind of align this left like that, I could do that and kind of align all my labels in the same like horizontal plane or the same vertical plane. So this allows you to kind of like snap your labels to a grid, so to speak, like that. And I have a number of options for the pen type. Right now it's set as sequential. So like as a user, I'm looking at this being like, okay, this is number one. I want to click onto that one first, and then number 2, 3, 4, etc. I can also just do like a plus or minus pin like that, which just kind of shows and collapses as you click into it. And you have a couple different customization options there as well, just like a blank circle. Our basic kind of out of the box themes are dark and light themes. You can see the dark theme like that. If you have like a lighter background or lighter structures, that can make that pop a little bit more. You can also do a custom theme as well, which can be helpful. So you saw earlier how we kind of map this to the flow of blood. So if I want to do like a blue to show where that deoxygenated blood enters the heart, I can do that. Set those as like a blue pin, for example, in the background. One of the really useful features of labels, I think, is under interaction, which is the ability to like zoom to a specific position. So by default, it zooms to a labeled structure, which basically just centers the structure in your view as a user when you click into it, kind of like that. Depending on where you are as a user in the experience, they're going to kind of zoom in or zoom out. But you can actually customize that. And the way you do that is by changing it to a fixed position. So if I zoom to a fixed position, maybe I want it to kind of zoom more in this angle like that. And that's what I want it to show when users click on the right atrium label. I can capture that position. Then I can easily quickly now with the new studio, preview that, and you can see that's set to the view I want it to be. So that I think is really helpful with labels. Between labels and positions, you can really customize the views you want for your users and direct them to exactly where they need to go in the learning experience. All right, I'll pause there for just a second. I saw some questions coming in. All right, so that's how to kind of add your own content into the scene, how to use the content blocks feature, how to use labels to draw users' attention to various things, and kind of upload your own supplementary learning materials into the experience here as well. One of the other really cool features we have in here is actually the ability to add quiz questions to any of our 3D models or any of these experiences that you author. And that allows you to create kind of knowledge checks and quiz your users on various things that they may have learned in the scene. So if I go to my quiz panel here, that's where I can start adding new quiz questions. So I want to give you kind of a few examples of quizzes that we can use here in the different types of quiz questions that we offer. So when I click add a new question, I have 3 different options. The first one is to select anatomy in 3D question. So let's say, for example, we wanted to quiz on like a chamber of the heart. So I'm going to say, identify this structure. And then I'm actually going to go onto the question. I can select my answer just by clicking into the structure that I want on the model. You'll notice there's a new part of quizzing that there's this little warning icon that the question is invalid because I haven't selected an answer yet. You'll notice if I hit done, like prematurely, it still has a little warning and just kind of flagging that, hey, this is not actually complete. So that's just a little handy tip we have in there now for you to let you know that that needs to be completed. So I can go into the model, click right atrium here, and you can see by default, it's going to show that the structure name in the question text here to the end user. And so let's look at what that question looks like. I'm going to click the little cluster of dots here to preview this quiz question. And you can see as a learner, I have just identified the structure. I can go onto the model and select that. If I select the wrong structure, it's going to tell me that I got it wrong. I can highlight what I selected, and then I can highlight the correct answer as well. So select anatomy 3D questions are great for getting users to learn spatial relationships between structures, identify structures, actually engage with the 3D content in the model. The other question type we have, one is label anatomy, which is our version of kind of like a drag and drop quiz. I'll show you what that looks like. So it'd be kind of the same thing where I could just be like, identify the structures. And then I can go in on the model and sort of add the ones I want to label. So for quizzing on the chambers of the heart, I can do that like so. And then if I preview this question, you kind of see what that looks like, where I have to go in as the user. I can click from here, the menu, and I can identify those, or I can actually go into the model and identify those like that as well. And I would just kind of go through from the drop down and select all those answers like that. I can reorder these questions anytime I want to, which is awesome. So I could just drag and drop and move the order of any of these as I'm authoring. And just as a reminder, this is at the chapter level again. So these quiz questions are just for this first chapter of the heart. And I could add another quiz if I wanted to into that blood flow through the heart model like this as well. I'm going to go back to my quiz panel. The last question is multiple choice, which is super flexible. You can write your own custom questions. So if I wanted to say like, to which chamber of the heart does deoxygenated blood enter? I can put my answers in here. And you can put distractor answers as well. By default, the first answer is going to be the correct one, but you can change that. And so I can change that answer choice. The one I select is going to be the one I want to be correct. And we have this optional ability to give an explanation for the answer as well to users that can appear for any question type. Then I hit done. You can preview and see what that question looks like there. And then they go in and select the answer like that. So by default, we have a quiz optional experience. We've kind of changed the name of this. Previously it was called like view and quiz. And you can see we now show that kind of quiz setting immediately to you right here. And I'll show you what this looks like when we kind of preview this. So if I preview this whole learning experience, you'll see as a user, I have all my content that I can interact with freely, kind of learn what I need to from the content that I put in here as an author. And then I have this take quiz button where after I learn what I need to, I can enter the quizzing experience, and then I'd go through this quiz and kind of select my answers that way. That's kind of the default experience. You can change that just by clicking into the manage quiz settings here, into that validation window. And you can change that to show quiz only. And what that'll look like is it'll immediately launch users into the quiz, just the quiz only experience here when they open this model or this tour. And then you can go through and complete it. So just to kind of show you what this would look like as an end user completing the quiz, we'll just kind of go through this. Okay. You can see your results as a user, show you what you got right or wrong. You can show like a summary there. And you can even download the results as a PDF as a user. And you could share that with your instructor, for example, if they want to see how you did on a quiz, which is really handy. So it just kind of opens up this little PDF of your results, and then you could share that as well. The other thing you can do with quizzes is, in addition to the 3 question types, there's also a text block. This was previously called something else. We just renamed it to a text block to kind of more accurately reflect its functionality. And this basically just allows you to insert descriptive text between questions. If you want to give any kind of context to anything, you can do that and insert text there, and it'll show like in between a question or at the end. Maybe you want to say, like make sure you submit the PDF of your answers to me. You could do that and have that in the text block at the end there for users to see. So that could be pretty handy as well for just giving your users instructions in the quizzing experience. You can see this little green dot just means that this quiz is live in here. If I change the quiz settings to disable quiz, it has the little red dot to let you know there is a quiz questions that you've authored in here, but it's not live for your learners. So they're not going to see any of this quiz right now. So you can disable the quiz anytime you want to as well. So that's quizzing. And again, you can add quiz questions to any kind of 3D interactive experience here as well. I want to highlight a couple more features of just kind of miscellaneous things you can do that are helpful. One on the right here is the background color. So by default, I have just kind of that white background. I can change this to a darker background if I want to. Sometimes I could make certain structures and colors pop a little bit more, or you can kind of brand this to your liking. You can use one of our preset colors, or you can do a custom color and choose that as well, just same way you'd use like that paint feature. And then you also have the option, which is really handy now, to just apply to all chapters. So if I want to apply that like gray background to all my chapters, I can do that, and it's applied like that as well. The other thing you can do is change the starting position of your model, which is just its 3D kind of initial orientation in 3D space. So, right, as a user, if I like open this model, the heart appears a certain way to me, right? If I want to be able to adjust that for my users, I can do that. I would do that by the chapters panel here. I can actually like rotate around where I want to. Maybe I want it to start right here. I can click the little camera button here to just capture that position, and then it's going to update that. So now when I kind of launch the model, it's just in that preset position. So you can change that anytime you want as well. Now, let's say like you kind of authored everything the way you want to. Maybe you added some chapters, you edited using the content blocks, you added some things, you added labels. We've done a lot to this model. If you want to, the next step is basically to publish it. So, and publishing it means you're exporting this into an embeddable or viewable format to people who don't have BioDigital accounts. And that's where you can take this 3D content and actually share it with your learners. You have the option to publish it, or download an image. So we have this image capture feature here that allows you to capture some high quality images. And so I could do that and just kind of capture my image here like that. And then you'd see like it could export an image like that and choose whether you want to show or hide the labels and so forth. So you can always share 2D images. We always recommend sharing the 3D interactive experience as well, because that really is like some of the, the great power of using this is being able to interact with the content. And the way you do that is go to the dot, the little caret up here, and I could publish this. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure I save again. And then this exports it into that embeddable format. And from here, I can copy that embed code, which allows you to just embed this directly in line, same way you would like a YouTube video into, various platforms, learning management systems, e-courses like Articulate Rise or Storyline, into any website. You also have the option to copy a link and just share like a URL to this specific model that's viewable to users without a login as well. So you could share that over email with someone, however you want to share that as well. So that's kind of your final step. Just checking our time here. I think I'll have a few quick things to show you in highlights and kind of reiterate, and then we'll dive into the Q&A at the end here. So just to reiterate how you would kind of start this process and show you that from the beginning. So I'm going to go back into Studio here. You actually have the Studio landing page in your team account, which is really handy. So if you click on that, you'll see immediately two options available for you. One is to customize a model. And when you click that, that's going to basically take you to that Explore section of our library, all that off-the-shelf BioDigital content. And you can go in like we did, right? Find the heart model or whatever you're using, and then open it in Studio like that. The open a model is something maybe you've already been working on, or something you want to work on, and you can see that opens up that team kind of shared library of content. You can see my heart model that I've been working on here, right? Maybe I want to come and make some edits to it. I could just open that up like that, and it's going to launch me right back into Studio like that. So that's a great way to get started, is just opening your model from the Studio kind of landing page there, and then you can go in and start doing a lot of what we talked about today. So you're aware, this question mark button can be really helpful in a lot of ways. One, we have a starter guide in here, which is new. You can see it gives you some, just some possibilities of what you can do in here, and reiterate some of the things we talked about today, just to remind you of what's possible in here. That could be helpful just to jog your memory as you're kind of recalling, okay, like what can I actually do with this tool? And then if you're experiencing any kind of like technical issues, something that seems like a bug, or just something's not working as you expect it to, you also can contact support here. And that's going to pop up a little window. And you can just click down here to get in touch. And then that'll connect you to leave a message, in which case you can say, I'm reporting a bug, or I just have a suggestion, which is awesome. We always want to hear feedback on how we can improve this. So we welcome any feedback. Or if you just have a question about something that you're not sure about, our team, answers that as well promptly. We also have a really robust help center of like articles and videos that kind of walk you through how to do a lot of what we talked about today. That's under the question mark. You can search the help center within the platform, which is really handy. So if you're like, actually, I don't quite remember how to use paint the way I want to, but I want to paint some structures on here, I can search that, and it's going to return some of what we have in the help center. So you can kind of navigate that without even leaving the platform here. And you can see, I can pop up some step-by-step instructions for how to use paint right here in the tool, which is really handy. And finally, about the help center, I'll highlight, you can actually just visit our help center too, and that's going to pop up in a new window. Using the BioDigital Humans, a really handy section especially if you're using Studio. You can see there's all this content in here about how to find content, how to customize it in Studio, how to save content, how to build quizzes, how to publish models. So all really handy as well. And then finally, I think we talked about saving early and often. That's one of the best tips I can give you. The other one is using keyboard shortcuts in Studio, of which there are many, can be really like a big time saver for you. So if you go to the help button, you can go to keyboard shortcuts. You can see there's a ton here that you can use. And I'm just going to highlight a few of the ones that I find the most handy and that I use often. So when I'm interacting with the 3D scene, I'm kind of using my mouse right now because I'm on a computer to like zoom in, zoom out with my scroll wheel and like rotate around. But what also is really handy is using kind of like left-handed arrow keys. So W goes up, A, S, D, W, A, S, D, just to kind of pan through the scene like that. And then the E on my keyboard will zoom in, and C will zoom out. I can even shift E, and that kind of slow zooms in, and then shift C as in cat kind of slow zooms out like that too. So that just makes it easier. I think if you want to like zoom to a particular position or get the view you want, you can do it, I think, a lot faster just using some of those keyboard shortcuts to navigate the 3D space like that. All right, I'm gonna stop there, and I think we can just open the floor for questions. We have about 13 minutes left, so please, if there's anything that hasn't been answered or questions as I was going through everything, um, put them in and we'll answer them live here.
We've been answering a lot of questions in the Q&A already, but we have a few that are outstanding, Wes. One is about, this is actually a good question, and I'm not sure if I know the answer to this. From Lauren Beeson, I noticed the description there is an H2 and H3 designation, is the label title an H1, and the text is standard paragraph if you don't change the hierarchy. I believe the H2 and H3 are both headings or meant to be used as headings, the H3 being smaller than H2. But it's a good question. Where's the H1? I guess we don't have one. But the answer to your question generally is that the text is going to be standard text if you don't adjust it. And then we just have those two options for creating, a kind of bigger header, a section header, and then a smaller header. That's good question.
Yeah, great question.
We also have, I'll just read these to you. From Kirk, is there a way to label a structure from the anatomy tree instead of clicking on the structure directly? That function would be useful for labeling internal structures through faded external structures. That is a really good
That is a great question. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Rachel, but I don't believe there's a way to do that currently with the labels. It would be a great feature to have, though, and I think that is great feedback. Currently, you would have to basically kind of like hide stuff, label it, and kind of re-add the structures, basically, to be able to do that. I'm sure you might be familiar with from having done it yourself. But we'll certainly pass along as feedback to our product team because I think that would be a really handy feature to have.
I've definitely needed that myself. I hear you, Kirk, because oftentimes when you have to label an internal structure through a faded external structure, you'll have to either remove the external structure or mark it or change it to being sort of unable to be selected, and then you have to change it back, or able to be selected rather, if you've made it unable to be selected. So anyway, definitely a good idea to add to our action menu in the tree.
For sure. And I see, okay, it looks like another question about the headers we answered. And then, okay, just praise, thank you. Appreciate that. And then I see a question, how can I make a video demonstration inside of BioDigital instead of a third-party recording tool? That's a great question. We don't currently have a way to do that, to like record a video inside of this. So we recommend using like any kind of screen recording tool is fine to be able to record this. We actually have an article on our support center as well of how to like best practices for screen recording models to make it like really visually appealing and kind of minimize the mouse clicks you have to do, make it a seamless experience for creating a video. Maybe Rachel or Sean, if you could drop that in the chat, maybe for people. I don't know if you're able to do that. And so we do have that option, which is helpful. We kind of give you some instructions for that, but you do have to use a third-party recording tool currently. You can certainly pass that along as feedback. It's something that would be useful to do. Let's see, what else we got? How do I create animations myself with movements such as the biomechanics video models? Yeah, that's a great point. So in some of our models, I can probably go back to this one. You'll notice there's like animation in the scene. So there's some movement in the scene, and you can see there's like a media bar showing this kind of looping animation. That's something that basically our 3D team, our content team does who are kind of well versed in these 3D tools to be able to create that animation. And so we don't really have a way exposed to use the users to be able to create your own animation in the scene, just because of kind of like the skill set and the tools that were required to be able to do that. There's not really just like an easy user-facing way to enable that, though I wish there was. So there's kind of no way to do that currently, but you can certainly go into our library and find all of our animated content, which just so you know here, if you go into the Explore section, you can actually filter by animated content. And you can see there's almost 500 models of animated content in here that you can choose from as well. That's a great question, though.
And just a reminder that we are always taking requests and suggestions for new models. Our team is hungry for your feedback and what you're interested in seeing added to our library. We add content to our library about every quarter. So please share that feedback with us. There's so many different ways. I don't know. I know you've gone through a couple of them, Wes, but you can reach out to your account manager. You can reach out to us at support. Wes showed you how to submit a ticket. There's actually, when you're submitting a ticket, there's an option for a content like model suggestions as well as product feedback. And we also have a give feedback button. So please tell us what you're looking for. We love the idea of creating it on your own, but tell us and maybe we'll build it.
Absolutely. All right, so Alice is asking, one challenge I have faced is highlighting an object like a catheter. The PICC insertion is a good example. It's hard to see the catheter. Is there a way to highlight an object? I see. Let's take a look at this here. See if we can find this. The catheter. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like you'd really need to maybe get in there to be able to see it. Or perhaps remove some of these structures that are on the body. Let's see if we can get to this quickly. Yeah, it's a good question. I think this is one that I might look into a little offline to see the best way to get to this catheter for you. And I could message you separately about it, Alex. I'll send you an email. But that's a really good question. I'm gonna do some digging into that and let's see if I can find the best way for you to get to that.
I think we've heard this feedback before, and it's a good question. And I think we've spoken to our content team about it, so definitely want to follow up.
Absolutely. Looks like some good feedback. Hypoxic ischemic. Well, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, but HIE imaging would be great. We could definitely pass that along to our content team as well as feedback. That's helpful to have. Thanks for sharing that.
Making a note.
Can I add translations of my existing models? Great question. Yes, we do have translations. So, I'm gonna not save this. So in terms of translations, what you'd want to do is before you're actually customizing your model, you can set the default language here. So from English to another language, and you can change that language. And then for example, you would like find your content here, and then you would actually customize it in Studio, and you could then save that model in Spanish or in whatever language you want. Once a model is already saved in English, it's not typically like easily translatable from there. So I think the best workflow would be to basically like save it and create it in the language that you want first, and then do that. Now, if you have existing models that are already in English that you just want to be translated into a different language, like you've already gone through the work of authoring and that kind of stuff, for our kind of like enterprise accounts, we can typically support that kind of translation process. So you just want to kind of get in touch with your account manager to see if that's something that we could do for you as well, and kind of run that through our translation process. It's a really good question. Okay, let's see. Would there ever be a feature that would allow us to download chapters that we've made with animations as an MP4, the same way we can download images as PNGs? That's a great question. I don't know off the top of my head. Happy to pass it along as feedback though, and see if that's something that we can do. I could see why that would be useful. Sounds like you just want to be able to like download an animated chapter as like a video file or something like that. Yeah, I could see why that'd be really useful. We'll pass it along as feedback. Thanks for asking that.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. We've definitely heard the request to be able to create your own videos, but I like the idea of it just sort of creating it for you based on the animation as it would play naturally without you seeing it. There is a feature, not that this is the same. Certainly, it sounds like there would be a specific use case for that, but there is a feature that is it's sort of remained in beta, but it is available. It's not off the shelf, but you can contact our team for more information. But we have a playthrough or autoplay option that allows you to, it's basically a parameter that you add to the URL. It's just like a little string of code or like a little text, and it will automatically play. If you have a fully animated tour, it will play the animation through without you touching it. So that's really great for, if you're embedding the animated tour or showing, a procedure or something into a learning management system, into like an e-module where you're not necessarily expecting the end user to want to click around a lot, or maybe they're already doing a lot of clicking. So that is an option if you're looking for more of a passive experience.
For sure.
Reach out to us at support@biodigital.com or contact your account manager if you're interested.
Right.
Just doing a time check. We have 2 minutes left, so we can probably maybe we can take these last two questions.
Okay, let's see here. We got a couple nice
Oh,
comments.
just a comment.
And then let's last final questions from Sarah here. Okay, can you increase the length of the leader line when adding labels? Yes. So when I add a label here, by default it's like that. I can pull that out as far as I want in terms of the leader line. If you also are entering into a label under the styles, you can actually do it floating if you want to remove the leader line as well. For any reason, you can do that too. Oh, with using the snap to grid feature. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's actually a great point. So with the snap to grid feature, it automatically kind of like presets that back to like the original length of the leader line. So with the snap to grid feature, you'd have to basically custom move it to get the length you want. But I could see why that'd be useful, and that's good feedback for us to pass along as well, to be able to like set the length or something, or keep the length maybe you have when you snap to grid like that.
Good point. I will use that opportunity to point out that the closer the label is to the point of attachment of the pin, the better generally. One of our best practices is to keep the labels close to the objects or structures that they label or identify, just for reducing cognitive overload, and that, need to kind of visually scan. So just best practice out there.
For sure. And let's see, the other question, when using the image download section, increasing the label size. Okay, so if we're in the image section,
When you unhide the labels,
oh, is that
it's
why? Yeah. Okay, there we
yeah.
go. Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to unhide them. That's how it
Yeah.
appears.
Is this the same as publishing in the top right? So this will basically, publishing publishes like the whole 3D experiences that you can engage, like embed the interactive experience. This is just taking a 2D snapshot of whatever you're zoomed in on currently and just basically taking a 2D image. The label size feature is just to make sure that your labels are in the actual image that's being captured and they're the size you want, essentially. So it is different in the sense that this is specific to 2D images, and then the publishing is 3D. Let me know if that doesn't answer your question. Great questions. All right. We're just about out of time, so I think we can wrap it up there, but I appreciate everyone's awesome questions and engagement with the webinar. We hope it was helpful for you.
Thanks, everyone. Great questions.
Seriously.
Have a great day.
Thanks all. Have a good one.